Eternals. It had its world premiere this week in Los Angeles. The film received outstanding praise for its inclusivity. It received great reviews. Right after the premiere, I caught up with Kristen Stewart and asked her about the LGBTQ representation in the film and what that means for people to see themselves on screen, but also for the naysayers who have something to say about it. And this was her take.
I don't know much about the storyline of this one, but I'm glad there's gay people in it.
Married to a gay superhero with a child. What does that mean to you as a gay man, a gay actor in this town, getting to do that in a Marvel movie?
Beyond the dream come true. It's life-saving. Can you imagine how many lives this is going to be saving? And the fact that Brian is also black, you know, we're both people of color and queer. So huge.
You were saving lives.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me. I mean, this is why I'm an artist.
These people are insane. This is how highly they think of themselves. Starring in a absurdly non-memorable Marvel film is literally saving lives. It's saving the world. This is proof positive that being woke doesn't save a bad movie. It can be used in an organic way. I support, giving everyone a fair shake in their roles. But what it appears to be is that's the narrative that they're mostly concerned with. They want to make sure that you know that it's woke, that there's two men who have a baby, and that's why you should spend 15 of your hard-earned dollars and give it to Hollywood billionaires, and that's why you should. Not because it's a good movie, because the reviews certainly say it isn't. Now, do I think that The Eternals is going to be the worst Marvel movie in history? No, but it'll probably be in a bottom 5. Most of the reviews are negative or middling at best. Even the certified fresh, quote-unquote, reviews are middling. 5, 6s, 7s out of 10. Reminding you just how these are some of the new reviews that came out today. This is late yesterday. Eternals review, a unique Marvel entry that doesn't quite hit the mark. Chloe Zhao's fine take on a blockbuster fare is weighed down by a confusing plot. Well, what'd you expect when you have 15 new characters you have to deploy? This is the dumbest idea Marvel could have ever had. You have this many new characters that people are supposed to suddenly care about because the dude from White Castle, whatever movie is in it, and 100-year-old Angelina Jolie. That's not enough. You have 10 new characters that we have to learn about, we have to care about, we have to understand their backs. It was going to be a disaster from the start. Plus, nobody cares about the Eternals. This movie could have been made by anybody. Nobody equates the Eternals to Marvel unless you're a hardcore comic book reader. Not to mention all the hilarious questions about where the Eternals were during Endgame. They were supposedly around, but they just sat it out as half the universe was at risk. What? New York Post review today, Eternals review, one of the worst Marvel movies so far. Just out of Infinity Bore, sorry Marvel's Eternals. Seriously, what a snooze. Fresh off winning the Best Director Oscar for Nomadland, Chloe Zhao has upchucked one of Marvel's worst movies in ages. And to what end? Eternals, which no doubt become a Jon Favreau punchline in the future Avengers film, need not exist in a universe that already counts the Fantastic Four and X-Men among their franchises. Yet here you go, ticket buyers, another far worse, uninformed collective of super beings with conspicuously similar superpowers and vague, grandiose mission to save humanity. Well, where were our amazing protectors when several hundred innocent people walked into a lousy 2-hour and 37-minute movie Monday night? The Eternals are powerful aliens that spent 7,000 years on Earth, keeping the masses safe from deviants, which, from what I gathered, are wolves made out of twigs. However, like Star Trek's Prime Directive, they refuse to impact the course of history. They often screw up on the last part. The most important difference between the Eternals and X-Men, however, is Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Halle Berry's Storm are layered, fascinating character studies. Angelina Jolie's Athena has the personality of a bar of soap, and Ancient that suggests her semester abroad in London was the best 4 months of her life. All the characters are similarly bland. Richard Madden's Icarus is hot, can fly, and has laser eyes. Gemma Chan's Cersei is able to change inanimate objects into other inanimate objects, but God forbid she alter her facial expressions. Druig Barry Kogan can control people's minds. Kingo stars in Bollywood movies and has fire hands. I mean, and Mikari can run super fast. Gilgamesh is really strong, and Sprite is able to trick people with optical illusions. There's also Phastos, a magical inventor of new technology, played by Brian Tyree Henry, who boasts one of the time-jumping movie's most confounding moments. The screen reads Hiroshima 1945, while Henry stands amid the wreckage and yells, "What have I done?" The group's leader, Ajak, is played by Salma Hayek, who isn't even allowed to be fun and Salma Hayek-y. I lost count of how many times these 10 boring people casually found themselves in a perfect triangular formation. The movie's conflict is that the deviants, which were believed to be destroyed, are back again, and our heroes must stop the atrociously animated monsters. Speaking of which, Denis Villeneuve's Dune, which hit theaters last Friday, showed theatergoers the wonderment of well-done CGI. I will say the CGI was pretty good, and can achieve how well done CGI can achieve, and how Marvel so regularly makes us beg for the bare minimum. Eternal whisks us to a lot of places like Iraq, South Dakota, Mexico, Mesopotamia, Babylon, and they all look exactly the same and make the movie feel like it was, 7,000 years. The dramatic open teases a sequel. The giggles in the auditorium throughout, however, suggest a reboot. Eternals review: an ambitious narrative slams against the limits of superhero cinema. Not even getting woke. And it's like, is this what the actors... Now, I get it. This is the questions. I had obviously had the opening montage roasting how, like, self-important these actors think they are. And the idea that was going to save a wholly terrible movie it just shows why we're getting the unending string of garbage that we are. There's no end in sight for just terrible movies that rely on everyone talking about how this is the first time in history this has happened, or this is the first time somebody with only one leg is a thing. This is the first time we've had a deaf superhero. This is the first time that we've had a brunette superhero who dyed their hair blonde in the middle of a movie. None of it makes for a good film. It never has. The Eternals is like literally the epitome of get woke, go broke. Because if they're depending on people saying, oh, well, the Eternals has 2 dudes who have a kid, and that's amazing, and it's saving lives. What good is it if the movie is laughed at? What good is it if no one goes to see that movie? How many lives are you going to save? Eternals review. This is today. One of Marvel's worst movies and biggest disappointments. Marvel's Eternals could have been deliberately constructed to answer the company's critics who complain that they make the same movie over and over again. If nothing else, Eternals does try some new things. Long stretches owe more to 2001: A Space Odyssey and Prometheus than Avengers. The film introduces an elaborate new mythology of ancient gods, aliens, and monsters to the existing MCU. Some of that mythology features interesting ideas, mostly taken from the original Eternals comics back by Jack Kirby, and about the connections between superhero fiction and religious iconography. But every scene is burdened by an uneven cast and laden script crammed with a millennia of backstory that repeatedly ends the story's momentum. You can't introduce this many new characters and expect it to be super easy. This is the same thing when you have, even introducing 1 or 2 new characters to, let's say, the Avengers. They're and the existing MCU. They need a lead-in. They need, before they can carry their own movie. Now you have 10 people. Almost nobody under the age of 50 knows. a bunch of washed up actors. It just never feels like a Marvel movie ever was in existence here. But thankfully, the Eternals director Chloe Zhao had discussions with Marvel about anti-LGBTQ censorship overseas. I'll give her that. I don't know anything about Chloe Zhao. I hear Nomadland was a good movie. Never saw it. But you have, otherwise there's no point in putting that on screen. So she said it was important that their family and their story felt authentic and real because the audience has to feel that to care. She's not wrong, actually. It's like she knew that like ham-fisted wokeism isn't the way to make it, to make it work. It has to be authentic. Otherwise, there's no point to putting that on screen. As such, Zhao said she was hopeful Marvel wouldn't cave to pressure to censor the Eternals content when it released in international markets. I don't know all the details, but I do believe discussions were had, and there's a big desire from Marvel and myself, we talked about this, to not change the cut of the movie. Zhao said, fingers crossed. Let's be very clear. You're going to change the cut of the movie. Russia often censors this content. China often censors this content. I'm sure it won't appear on screen in Egypt and other Middle Eastern countries. But at least I'll give her credit for calling it out and being out there up front and saying, hey, I'm not okay with cutting it. We'll have to wait and see. I'm pretty sure as they look at the money roll in, they're going to get pretty desperate to not lose those international markets, and they'll be cutting things pretty quickly. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.